This is a video over section 7.3, where we're going to look at simplifying rational expressions, multiplying rational expressions, and dividing rational expressions. In order for this video to actually be useful to you, you need to have your blue foldable. It's already folded and stapled. You don't have to worry about it. Also, the examples are already written down for you, so it should make it a little bit easier for you to take the notes for this. After you finish your foldable, you will work on the practice problems that I have left for you. Remember that your 7.2 homework quiz is on Monday. The 7.3 homework quiz will be on Wednesday of next week. If you finish your notes and your 7.3 practice, your 7.2 practice you can also work on. Make sure that you've checked your answers to that and are ready for your homework quiz. On the front flap of your foldable, you want to write operations on rational expressions. So this title right here is what you need to make sure that you write on the front flap of your foldable. Operations on rational expressions. While you're writing that, our objectives for this lesson are to simplify rational expressions and state the excluded values, and we'll talk about that. Multiply and divide rational expressions, and then not in this video, but when I come back, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting rational expressions and stating their excluded values. All right, on to our first type of problem. So on the very first flap, next to that little number 1 that's circled on your foldable, you want to write simplifying rational expressions. There are 3 steps for doing these types of problems. These steps are going to stay pretty similar throughout all the different types of problems that we do, but they start with step 1, which is to factor completely if possible. Factor completely if possible. Step 2, you are going to set factors in the denominator equal to 0 to find excluded values. The last step in simplifying rational expressions is step 3, and that is to cancel common factors and simplify fully. If you need more time to write these, feel free to pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the examples, though. All right, so on this first example, we're going to start by factoring fully. We've already done that. It's already factored for us, so we don't need to factor. That means that we can go on to our second step. Now, the reason our second step matters is because anytime we have a fraction, we can't divide by 0. If either one of, I wish the mouse was showing. Here, I'll do it this way. If either one of these binomials equals 0, the ones in the denominator, that means that our entire denominator is going to equal 0, because 0 times anything is still 0. So if we have 0 in here or here, that's going to make our entire denominator 0, which will mean that we would be dividing by 0, which can't happen. We would have an undefined function. So in order to prevent that, we need to make sure that neither one of those equals 0. So we are going to say x plus 1. If x plus 1 equals 0, we have a problem. And if x plus 3 equals 0, we have a problem. If we solve that, that means that we have a problem at x equals -1 and at x equals -3. That's where we're going to be undefined with our function or with our expression. So those values have to be excluded. Now we can to move on to our step 3, which is to cancel common factors. If we look at this problem, we see that x plus 1 recurs on the top, the numerator, and in the denominator. So we can cancel x plus 1 in both of those places. The 2 doesn't happen in the denominator, so that's going to have to stay. The x plus 3 doesn't happen in the numerator, so that stays. So our answer here is going to be 2 over x plus 3, where, we represent that with a semicolon, where x cannot equal -1 or -3. Those are our excluded values. Moving on, we have example 2. Example 2 is not factored yet. If at any point I'm going too fast, feel free to pause and you can come back. So example 2 is not factored yet. The denominator on example 2 is the difference of squares. So I can rewrite this as x plus 4 over, if I factor my difference of squares, I end up with x plus 4 times x minus 4. One thing that I like to do when I have a binomial like x plus 4 that isn't, like in the numerator here where it isn't with anything else, is I like to put it in parentheses. The reason I do that is so that I can make sure that I don't end up canceling out that x or that 4 with something else, because in order for me to cancel that, I have to be able to cancel the entire binomial x plus 4. So I factored it. Now I'm going to do my second step, which is to set each piece of my denominator equal to 0. I need to solve. And I get x equals -4 and x equals +4. So that's where I'm going to have my issue, at x equals -4 and x equals +4. Now, on my third step, I cancel out my common factors. When I say cancel out, what I really mean is that I'm dividing them out so that I have just a 1. So my answer for this is going to be 1 over x minus 4, where x cannot equal -4 or +4. On example 3, it's already factored. I get to skip that step, but I do need to find where I have a problem in my domain or my excluded values. So I set each of those equal to 0. And solve. I would cancel out any common factors, but I don't have any, so there's nothing I can change. So my answer is still 4 over x times x plus 2, where x cannot equal 0 or -2. All right. So then, on to my last example. I have to factor both of these. So when I factor the numerator, I'm going to end up with x minus 3 times x plus 1. If you're not doing that as fast as I just did that, you might want to spend some more practice on IXL working on factoring, over x minus 3 times x plus 2. I need to check for any problems with my denominator, so I'm going to set those equal to 0 and solve. So I have an issue at x equals 3 and at x equals -2. Now I would cancel anything that I can. I can only cancel that x minus 3 factor. So my final answer is x plus 1 over x plus 2, where x cannot equal 3 or -2. That is the gist of simplifying. I'm going to stop the video because I don't want it to have problems uploading, and I'll pick back up on the next section of your foldable.